Live, everything's phone's on silence. Yes.
Right now? Hi! Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming on my live again for the 4th time. What troopers you are. Wow. How many people do we have tuning in right now, Tristan? Great. It's like goose egg. It's like
That's
still coming in.
Yeah, they're still coming in. We just started. So, okay, we have 4 people.
We have 4. There we go. Here we go. Sweet. Hi, everybody. How are you doing today?
Brendan Varnas says hello.
Hello, Brendan.
Can you guys hear it okay? Just double checking.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I'm still chewing gum.
Jordan White says hello.
Can they see this?
Now they can, right there. Perfect. Yeah.
We didn't forget it this time.
All right, Daphne Star says we can hear you. Perfect. The audio is good. And we have 14 people now. 1 thumbs up.
Audio looks good on the test over here. So we're all ready to go.
Are we though? Is Margot here? Can't start with that, Margot.
She tweeted to miss it.
Oh no. Okay. Sorry. We get friendships with the people who watch us frequently. And the people who don't, who just watch once and they're awesome people. You know. So I'm gonna pick out a poem today. And yeah, let me see if I actually finished this one. It seems to be on just a random piece of paper in the journal. So, I guess not. Okay, I'm going to look through the rest of it then to find what I wrote a while ago because that one is incomplete. And we can't have that, can we? So, okay, this one is kind of, I would say it's kind of a belittling poem because technically it's called Here I Am Not, referring to God who is. So it's a little bit, I don't remember how self-deprecating it is because I wrote it a long time ago and I haven't read it over, but I can read it for you now. So, Dear Lord, here I am not, and never was I here. I don't live, instead I rot, struck dead by sinful spear. I never knew the light, on my own I knew not love. Dear Lord, here I am not, looking up to you above. What I am is all a lie. I am not, I'll always cry. If I am me, then I am dead. It is the truth, it's as you said. My Lord, here you are, and always have you been. Come into me and replace self, that I may not die from sin. Enter me, O living one, replace me who is not. Replace my heart with that of your Son. Let my dying soul be forgot. Without you I am nothing, my soul is empty and dead. O fill me with your living grace, and to life let me be led. Dear Lord, here I am not, in front of he who is. Let my wants be fought, so there's room for your graces. Come into me and make me gone, so only you remain. And in me let you see your Son, as I offer up my pain. And in this way then, I become. I exist, and I am delivered from such a horrid and merciless end, where evil I wouldn't be able to fend. If I am, then you must be. You must be the life in me, and I must be gone, just you in me, so I may live eternally. Dear Lord, here I am not, but always are you. Okay. How many people do we have tuning in now?
Right now, we're 24.
Wonderful.
People, yes.
If they want to start putting any prayer intentions they have in the comments, we'll be praying in a little bit here. First, I'm going to pick the sponsor of today's episode, our saint sponsor. And I want the people in the room with me now to, in their mind, pick a number between 1 and 6. Okay, that's Rachel, Claire, David. Pick a number between 1 and 6.
Okay.
All right. All right, now say it out loud.
4. 2. 4.
We got 4. Okay, and that is St. Francis. That was so funny. I almost didn't put him down because I didn't think it was kind of unique enough. I was going for like St. Philomena and St. Monica, and I was like, St. Francis is pretty, he's out there a lot, but I decided to put him in the list. And St. Francis is the sponsor today. Now, I don't know whether that means it's St. Francis de Sales or St. Francis of Assisi, but we can just make it both because they're both cool. I think you might agree with that. So that's just fine. Okay. Do we have any deeper intentions in the comments?
We do.
Great.
Katie Rain says, my granddad has a tumor in his head and he has an MRI.
We'll be praying for your grandfather.
Brendan Varnas says, my mom's in the hospital from depression.
I'm so sorry. Wow.
Kurdish Catholic says, I am trying to receive a miracle from Blessed Miriam. She wants to be healed. Please ask for her intercession.
Oh my goodness. Yes, okay. Wow.
Luis Silva says, for Guatemala and victims of a volcano.
Oh, yes. That's nice news. Wow. Yeah, I'll be praying for all of those. Thank you so much.
And there's one more. Jordan White recently became a Catholic. So.
Welcome! That's so exciting. Thank you for coming on the live stream today, too. We're happy to have you. Okay, well, we'll start off with Our Father, Hail Mary, and glory be. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Glory be to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, a world without end. In the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Good deal, everybody. Those are some, you can tell how important those intentions are. So thank you for letting us know about that so we can pray for them. Now, wow. So the title of this video is How Sin Physically Hurts Us, correct? And I had been thinking about that recently, and if you follow my Twitter, you probably saw a post today that said something like this. It said, guess what? Sin is related to health and wellness. It's not just spiritual. And what I mean by that is it's not just spiritual consequences that come with sin. It will reap its consequences physically, just as when you eat something inedible, it's not meant to be. It's not biologically correct, whether it's hatred or constant releases of dopamine or drunkenness. Now, I don't mean to say that when you sin, you're going to have more wrinkles on your face than usual or something crazy like that. Though that can be caused by smoking, just throwing that out there. But basically, it's kind of crazy how, like I said, it's like when you eat something you shouldn't. So obviously, drinking a lot, if you're an alcoholic or have an addiction to alcohol, that will have physical consequences that are very obvious. There are other things such as the one with the constant releases of dopamine. So it's like self-pleasure in that way to your own body, can release a lot of dopamine. And that has very interesting consequences, actually, which it can take down your energy level for sure. And it can cause loneliness and depression because when you take away dopamine, that actually helps you to want to interact with other people and be around with people socially. So when that happens, there can be even a decrease in your comfort level around other people because you don't feel like you need it at the time, making you potentially more socially awkward in a way because you don't feel as talkative. You don't feel the need to get that regular, normal human contact. So that, of course, has, as you can imagine, psychological effects from there on out. It's just not good for you at the end of the day and makes you less of your energetic, talkative, great self. So, and then, of course, hatred can have its consequences because holding that kind of strain and stress on your heart over something that maybe you cannot change, something somebody did to you, is not going to get you anywhere and is probably going to hold you back at the end of the day. And physically, like I said, it causes physical stress. And that has its consequences. So, any comments on that thus far?
Yeah, everything AMDG says, total effect on neuroplasticity, fight the new drug, is a bunch of studies on the long-term impact of and psychological brain damage.
Wow, psychological brain damage.
Pursuing sainthood says, how do we love those who enjoy major sin? Like some pro-choicers that are more positive about abortion instead of just advocating, that it's a last resort. Should we even try to love them?
Of course you should try to love them. I want you to step back from anything political about them at all, as if you don't even know their political stance yet. I want you to step back and almost in your mind make up a story of their life. Just start to think of the possible stories, or the possible things they went through in their life, because there are a lot of possibilities, obviously, and a lot of backgrounds that they could have. And I want you to start to see how extensive a person's background can be, and their experiences can be, and their encounters can be, and the people they've run into, and how all of those things combined can influence a person. I don't want to say they can shape a person, because it's obviously people aren't, quote, straight up scientific experiments where if you put them in a room with this many people, they will definitely change. But it has the potential to influence them towards certain viewpoints. But at the same time, if you look at their entire story, there's going to be good things that they did in their life too. And there's going to be actual, believe it or not, good people who are liberals, duh, and they love nature, they love planting flowers, they helped build a park at their local community, someplace where the children could play. They've done good things, they're pursuing the good, as many humans naturally are called to do, but there's been a lot of influences in their life to give them what they think is sufficient evidence to believe in the views that they hold today. So there's not this, I want evil, like straight up, like I know this is totally evil, but I want it because I hate babies or I hate humans. Majority of liberals are not that way. And even if they are, I want you to once again look at their story. What could have caused that much hatred in their life and that much bitterness? What happened to them? Who did that to them? Who did this to them? And there's a tragedy you should feel there, one that says, I wish I could have been there to prevent that. And I wish I could have been there to make their life better, because that is loving that person, even if they are in your eyes just totally awful today.
Yeah, Alanson Cleveland posted a quote from G.K. Chesterton saying, there are a great many human souls whom we should accept more kindly and appreciate more clearly if we simply thought of them as people in a story.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, that's so cool.
Everything AMGG says #legit.
Allegedly. Great. Thanks, AMGG.
Ego and Godly says, may I ask what the significance of the swear jar at the left of the screen is?
The significance, it kind of speaks for itself. Yeah, we found it at an antique shop and thought it was funny because we're a Catholic channel that does not openly swear on the channel, obviously, and kind of promotes not swearing in general. Of course, if it slips out among one of us during a very hard time in our lives, we will still love them and understand that it's a tough time for them. Yeah. On the bottom, it's really funny because it says, you probably know someone who needs it, $5. So, because I've never openly swore on my channel before, so to have it in the video is like, I don't know, I just think it's funny. Okay. Any other comments, or should I keep it going? Keep going. Sweet. Okay. Along the lines of sin being related to health and wellness, when it comes to sin, a lot of people will heavily beat themselves up or believe they're not doing a good job spiritually because they still have these either, it might be raging hormones or raging desires to do the wrong thing, or they might be having a lot of dark thoughts just passing through their mind that's almost overwhelming. And I remember when St. Catherine of Siena, I don't remember, I wasn't there obviously, but I remember reading that St. Catherine of Siena had, she was upset after an extensive session of temptations that were just so dark and terrible and were just clouding her mind and going through her mind, and it really disturbed her. And when Jesus spoke with her, she said to him, she said, Jesus, why did you allow all of those temptations to happen to me? Why did you abandon me like that amid all that darkness? And Jesus said to her, basically, the hatred you had for them while they were happening, while they were going on, that inward, knowledge that they were so wrong and so terrible. He said, that was me in your heart. I was with you in your hatred of what is evil, which is really cool. So, to jump back a little bit though, this is, I guess, a little bit different thought than that, but still wanted you guys to hear that. Basically, when the human desire, it's funny because it is actually a natural thing for your physical body to go through, to go for comfort. So if in your mind you kind of separate, which you don't actually ever separate, like the soul and body except at death, of course, but we are one thing, the body and the soul, we're the one person. If you take the soul away from the body for a second, and the soul itself desires goodness and desires God and desires to love, and then you put this perfect good soul, let's say, into a human body. The human body is still going to act like a human body. It's I'm not saying humans are animals, but it is the animalistic part of us because it's connected to this world and nature and all of those instincts. So if you put a perfectly good soul in that body, the body's still going to be pumping blood. It's still going to be, waking up every morning, and it's still going to be processing all those hormones and all those natural things. And so they can be just raging inside your body. You can, from really wanting a donut to really wanting to, sin with significant other. So those things are going to, like I said, pump through that body. And because they are doing that, it is not a fault of yours to have those really strong pulls and strong desires. It does not make you evil or dark or bad. In an ideal world, the body will get along with the soul, because that's what heaven is. It's when the two aren't fighting against each other. When the soul and body are fighting against each other, that's called death. And hell is eternal death, where they never, ever, ever will get along. So basically, when those desires are very high, you are allowed, you can just sit. You can just sit on the couch and not act. I know this is like dilemma 101 of humankind because we want to, but you don't have to beat yourself up and say, oh, I must be bad because these things are running through me. You can just sit there with them and with your will, say no and not act on them, and still let them pump your body and rage at their full capacity. So, yeah, the tweet I said about it today was, you don't have to have erased your feelings and human desires to be holy. You can have them in full force, not acting amid their intensity because of your knowledge of the truth. The truth is acting on them brings lonely suffering. And I say lonely suffering because suffering can be such a beautiful and redemptive and fruitful thing from a human being to the Lord and to others. But a lonely suffering is caused when there is a cutoff from God or a denial of wanting to even be in contact with God because of the shame that comes with sin on our part. So it's a cutoff on our part even sometimes. And the suffering can go to waste. So I call that a lonely suffering is what acting on the sins leads to. And I believe we've all experienced that before. So, and at the end of that tweet, I just said, cling to the rosary or put on the scapular on, certain days where you're feeling it more intensely than others. and distract yourself. Go do things. So as St. Padre Pio said, when the devil comes to tempt you, he finds you occupied. He finds you sweeping the floor in the kitchen, or he finds you out playing baseball. So, yeah. Okay.
We have a lot more questions.
Yeah,
Really?
We had a
Wow.
question. Lovar Lackland said, "Hey there, I'm a teenage Catholic who doesn't really understand confession. What tips do you have to help me go to confession again? I haven't gone in 2 years."
Okay. Yeah. Confession, yes. I would say to get yourself to go, start praying the act of contrition outside of confession when you're alone in your room at night and you're really like, gee, I haven't been in forever. And you know what? At the end of the day, I really do want to go. I really would like a closer relationship with God. And if you don't even have that desire, pray to have that desire. Pray to have the desire to want to go to confession, as it is said. One way I like to look at confession is its embodiment of the suffering and resurrection of Christ. And even if it is hard for you to drum up what you think is truest contrition and truest apology, and it is something you should have in confession. So one way to potentially help you have that, I would like that I try to meditate on the sufferings of Christ before I go into confession, of him bearing those sins, of him going, to be crucified on the cross, wearing the crown, all of those things, and just heavily meditating on that, of what he did for me, because it usually will draw up a gratitude and a sorrowful gratitude in me. And that can lead to contrition in myself as well. And then when I go into confession, I flip the table a bit. And as I'm confessing and when I come out, I think of when Jesus came out of the tomb and he conquered death and he's bringing us with him. So you're coming out of the confessional brand new in a way. So I try to meditate on the sufferings of Christ more. And I can't express how different the relationship with God can be after confession. It's a beautiful thing. But there is something weird I noticed about confession just growing up, and it was that I would have a desire to go after I had sinned, like a huge desire. Oh, I gotta get there, I gotta get there, I gotta get there. Feeling closer with God, just wanting him in my soul at full capacity again. And then when I go to confession and come out, it felt like all the drama was over, like all the drama of pushing me to get to church to omit that sin. It was done. And I would sit there like, okay, now what? Do it. And, do I just wait till the next time I sin or what? And I didn't feel like a huge longing as much for God like I did before confession, which is crazy. And I kind of realized over time that I had to really try my best to keep up that desire for the Lord and pray for that desire for the Lord, even after I wasn't feeling all encompassingly guilty anymore and, bowing down on his feet, begging for mercy. All that drama was gone. I still had to keep up and form a natural, true love and happy perspective on God. Because all I had was just the sorrow, self-blame, sinful perspective with him when I was younger. So, and that's dangerous because if that's all you have and you haven't developed that happy relationship with God, then when the sin's not there, you're just kind of waiting for it to come back around again. And you don't feel too terribly different when you are out of confession then, because what are you going to? Like you haven't developed that way to just see God as the loving God, or it's not as interesting to you. Anyway, I've been talking a long time, but you should definitely get to confession. Try to make the effort. There's been days where I've tried to, and then something goes wrong. And I don't even get there. But the change that makes just in your soul with the desire to go and the act of leaving your house and going to the church, that's good for you. Let me tell you, it's very good for you. And it's a good sign, too, that God is moving in your life. So, yeah. And if it comes to fear of confession, think of confession like a doctor's office. It's like the doctor's probably heard everything, and the priest has probably heard everything. So, yeah. And if anything, he's happy you're confessing that and not keeping that disgusting thing on your soul anymore. You're throwing out the garbage, and that's a beautiful thing to witness. That's what the priest should be thinking. I'm talking a lot today. Oh boy, it's already 9:30.
Well, that's the whole idea behind the show.
I guess so. Yeah, I want to listen to what people are saying though too. So
There are a lot of questions.
Wow, really?
Let's see. Kind of scroll up a bit. Tristan, do you see any?
Yeah, I see a few. Let's see. Sorry, there's a lot. It's hard.
yeah, I understand. It's okay. How many people are on right now?
Right now we have 48 people on.
Nice.
Good.
Solid.
Yeah.
Salad.
German Lopez, or Herman Lopez, I don't know how you pronounce it, says, on the topic of swearing, do you have any advice on how to cut down on the use of it? I feel like I've gotten too loose with my words and I'd really like to make a change.
Yes. I have a lot of funny replacement words, and it's not because I'm just trying to be holier and replace words, with cuter things. Not just because of that reason, but that is a reason. But it makes light of my own sufferings when I replace it with something a little bit goofier, and I'm sure they all have heard my weird things that I say in place of swear words. So it has a humility on yourself when you say something a little goofier, instead of taking your struggles on in a full intensity to be like, oh, this is the worst thing that could happen, and then you say that word, and it's just not taking yourself lightly like you should as often as you can, because that'll help you hold on to inner peace at the end of the day. So life is pretty silly, and Mother Angelica says we should laugh a lot. So when something goes wrong, I try to replace it with quite funny expressions. One thing I even say, which I'm not sure I should even say, but I don't know, is I often find myself saying, oh, for the love of St. Peter and Paul. And sometimes I'll add Paul in there if I feel like it. But I try to imagine St. Peter laughing, because he probably was a sailor and a fisherman that swore a lot. And he's probably like, yeah, I don't care if you use my name. Like, who am I? It's like, so I hope he's okay with that, because sometimes I go, oh, St. Peter and Paul. For the love of St. Peter and Paul, what the heck is going on here? Or something like that. Or I know they've all heard me say freaking noodle soup a lot. And fudge monkeys. And I don't know where these things have come from for me, but they've just kind of come into my vocabulary, and when I say them, I immediately take myself a little less seriously, and it almost makes the situation a little more lighthearted, or not as big of a deal as I was initially seeing it. So
Nice.
Is it Rachel? I don't know if it's something said or something on her phone, but anyway.
The front half of a turtle, the back half of a monkey, and it says turkey.
Oh boy.
Okay. All right. If there are any other questions, you can say them. If not, I have some other things here.
All right.
I can talk about the next thing. I've got them right in a row, so
Cool.
if there's no questions, I'll keep going.
Yeah, we'll get back to you.
Okay. You get back to me. Okay. So another thought I had then. If you pursue the good, many things will go your way, and many things will turn against you. And I'm sure we've all experienced this, just being Catholic in a secular world, or just being a good person in a secular world, not necessarily Catholic, but just choosing the right thing, watching things come against you. And it's crazy, because sometimes those things that come against you will be people and friends and situational things, like maybe your house burning. No, house burning down is pretty dramatic, but things can physically go wrong in your life, and you could even be what we would call, spiritually attacked or psychologically attacked in ways that mean you feel a heaviness despite doing that good, because you are doing something contrary to the world, and the world will have a reaction to that, like Mentos in a pop can. Anyway, And if you pursue evil, you'll have other things that go your way. You'll get some cool stuff in this world too, if you kind of just live for yourself. And then other things will turn against you, whether that's family and friends who you've been not giving as much attention to anymore, or taking things from, taking money from, whatever it may be, that you could be hurting them. And so you could pursue good and have things turn against you. You can pursue evil and have things turn against you and things before you. But the fruits of goodness are forever. And the fruits of evil are temporary and will leave you with nothing in the end. So to have things turn against you at all, it might as well be for the good, because you'll have things that last that come out of that, unlike evil. Okay. This is an interesting one that might get a lot of comments next. So, yeah.
Jeremy Hansen has a question.
Sure.
He says, a lot of people think they are too far gone to be forgiven. Do you have any advice for how to help someone who thinks that?
Yeah, I'd tell them to go ahead, and I know we're not supposed to put the Lord our God to the test, but I dare them to say, oh yeah, God, then how about me? You know? When I was in about 8th grade, I thought, I read a bunch of saint books and was watching saint movies because I grew up in a Catholic home. I was just like, gee, that seems really unreachable. I don't know how in the world someone like me could do that. And it's kind of sad because all these saints seem to be really old to me. When I was younger, I didn't see a bunch of newer saints or people that I heard about that were recently canonized. I don't know why I didn't hear about them, because there probably were some, but I'd always read about, Catherine of Siena and Joan of Arc and just these old saints, that were a long time ago. And I'm like, wow, that's sad that doesn't really happen today. But what if it could happen today? And I kind of thought gee, this ended up being a quote from St. Francis. St. Francis, hey, it's a sponsor today, but he once said, if I have been all things unholy, if God can do it to me, he can do that for anybody. He can change anybody. And so St. Francis kind of showed himself as an example of what God can do when a person's life is all things unholy. And I remember a quote that was about the rosary, probably from St. Francis de Sales, I think, maybe, that said, even if you have one foot in hell, praying the rosary can turn that around and save you from, that eternal death potentially. So that's crazy. So I would say if you can encourage that person to try to see if God can prove it through them. If I want to say that's a bad way to challenge the Lord with your own soul and giving him a chance and giving him a shot and giving him some of your trust. So you just have to be open. Now this is a tweet that kind of went around quite a bit last week, which said, I attend many forms of Catholic Mass. I am not a traditionalist nor charismatic. I am Catholic. No other title is needed. Titles like this have done more harm than good in our church, even if there's reasons for them that are justified. So I refuse to be known by any other name besides Catholic. And somebody immediately commented and said, but Renee, what about Eastern Catholic? Is that something you're not comfortable saying? I'm like, excuse me, that is a liturgical, theological, and spiritual heritage. It is not a preference. So it's totally different. But yeah, it's there are arguments to say that you are a traditionalist or charismatic, but I think at the end of the day, it's just done more harm than good. And I'm not saying we should have I do believe in a universal church, but I'm not saying we should have a straight across the board, united religion. That gets weird. That gets really weird. And then you have people who make compromises to church teaching who are like, you have to include me too. So I'm not going to go there. But I'm going to say I believe in a universal church where everybody's Catholic and holds to that name, the one that so many saints died for. Yeah. So, and I know Christian was another one they all died for, even further back, but Catholicism is something that St. Joan of Arc, for one, defended to her death. And then good.
Definitely some people talking about it. They're saying they have some friends who are Eastern Catholic. They thought the comment about what about Eastern Catholic was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a separate conversation going on in the comments. But from Katie Ryan, she says it's extremely awkward when your pro-choice best friend get mad at you for accidentally a pregnant frog baby.
Oh, that is how.
Wow. And everyone's responding to that.
Oh my goodness, I see. Yeah, I would be too. I'd be like, what? But
okay, Jenny Barth asks, what is Roman Catholic?
What is Roman Catholic as opposed to Eastern Catholic?
I guess so.
That's once again spiritual heritage. That's what I would say. Spiritual, theological, and heritage.
Stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of. If you can't make it through one whole rosary and you're like struggling, and I mean struggling, and it's not really anything for you. She says the Hail Mary is the sweetest thing to my ears, and of Mary and Jesus in real time. That is actually wrong.
You know that LeBron just made a monster dunk.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Okay, we're back.
I'll see. It's loading on my end.
Is it spinning though?
It's spinning.
That
but
means
it's
coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It says we're connected on here.
Coming.
So cool.
You are back, Renee.
Oh. How much did you miss? Because I was talking a long time.
It only really cut out a few minutes before I told you, so I don't know what part of the conversation we were at there. But I guess our viewers can tell us where.
Probably when I was saying, and once you understand that, you can start meditating on the mysteries of the Rosary again, and know that Mary is praying them with you, and yeah, and is there somewhere in the room, and you can't pinpoint where ever. But she comes to you just like she would come to the saints in the visions, but you can't see her because to see a vision is a big burden, actually, and was given to specific saints as part of their cross, actually. Because, I mean, even Bernadette, like I said, maybe they heard this before, but she said that once she saw Mary, she was willing to die to see her again because she was so beautiful. To live with that on earth, having seen that's really hard, as you can imagine. So, and just to throw out there, Saint Bernadette's, when Saint Bernadette was really, really sick, and they were still questioning her, even though she was like literally on her deathbed, they were questioning her. She just began to blurt out a couple times, "I did see her. I did see her. I did see her," just over and over and over again, when she was very ill and could barely speak that much. So even till death, it's so crazy. Anyway, there's a lot to think about. Please watch A Catholic's Reality on Reborn Pure on YouTube. Okay, so yeah.
Daniel Hernandez says, is it right to refrain from praying about the small things in our lives, like praying for a good night's sleep or something?
Is it wrong? No.
Yeah.
Oh. No. I'll bring up, I guess, Mother Teresa, Saint Teresa of Calcutta's little quote that says, "It's not how much you do, it's how much love you put into the doing." So just on the same lines, I would say it's not, how big the thing is that you're asking for, but it's your acknowledgement of God and your willingness to put every little thing in his hands. That is beautiful and really shows him as the caretaker of your life. So it's definitely not bad to ask for the little things. And yeah, I actually have struggled with that in the past, thinking about all the people out there who are just begging God, for God's attention in some big stressful circumstance, while I'm just asking, like I said, to get a good night's sleep. It's like you have to. I know it seems like God is this really busy person that gets a lot and has to process all those things, but we have to remember that he is individually paying attention to us, and there is a relationship that is exclusive to him and you only, that is uninterrupted by everybody else and what is going on with them. Just imagine it is you and him in a room, and that is the communication there that should always be happening, because he pays that much attention to you individually. So yeah, you can ask him for a good night's sleep. In fact, talk to him all the time, because asking for a good night's sleep and then thanking him for a good night's sleep, it's all a beautiful thing. And yeah. Any other questions, or should I go on?
The chat's not showing up on my screen, David. Do you have questions?
Let's see.
Has anybody seen this book yet? Because my mom just sent it to me. It's called Just Whatever. What does it say? How to help the spiritually indifferent find beliefs that really matter. So the people that are like, religion's just not my thing, I don't even worry about it. Like, how do you even argue or like prove anything to people who don't even have a desire to seek? So I'm excited to read that book.
Mariana Garza says, can I still be a saint if I do not know as much as other people?
Yes. Saint Bernadette failed theology class. She straight up failed, and the priest and the sister were like, you're no good, and blah, blah, blah. And in the movie, if you watch it, she was the one in class not given a saint card for First Communion. That was kept from her because she didn't study enough. And also there was a saint, I believe, that just was no good in was it math? I believe it was Latin. She just could not get Latin down, and it frustrated him to no end. No, absolutely. And in fact, Mother Angelica said, God uses dodos, she said. And she said, and he found one, me. Dodos are willing to look ridiculous, so God can do the miraculous. I believe that, dodos kind of take the jump or go for it, even though they don't see every single, detail of it rationally or logically. They have even more blind trust, which is unique. And I believe there are many different kinds of brains and minds out there, and though they may not all be made for the specific path in terms of the business world or the academic world, each one that might have something turned off, or a little less more of this thing, or a little bit more of that thing and less of that other thing, I believe it gives them unique perspectives that maybe the average person might not have, or a different approach that someone else may have never took. And God will use that. So it's not whether you are smart or dumb, but it's that with that different kind of a brain, there is an advantage there that the other person doesn't have always outside of academics. In fact, I'm terrible academically. I can't do it. And I even find it crazy. I can talk through and talk about these things with you guys because I struggle with just fluency, I guess, with my speech, because I had celiac disease for a while, undiagnosed, and it really caused a lot of brain fog, and I feel like I can't always process as quickly as I'd like to. It's very hard for me to deal with that, but at the same time, a humility comes with that, which is nice. I'm not saying I have a humility that comes with that, but I'm saying I had to learn to be like, to accept that place and accept that kind of mind and that kind of a brain. Yeah, and maybe not being as smart can also make you slow down and look for what you can do best, which might be different from everything else. And God may reveal things to you in crazy ways that the normal mind doesn't think about, because the normal mind or the different mind might be so straight-laced. It never goes all over the map and in the wrong directions. And sometimes the people whose minds go in the wrong directions grasp amazing things that only they could, and only could do things that a certain way that God wants them to be done, that cannot be done by anybody else but you or that kind of a person. So don't think about it academically and career-wise all the time with your brain.
All right, we have about 8 minutes left. So if you had anything else planned or if you want to do questions, then it's your time frame. Did you see an interesting comment, David?
Well, Reese had a question.
Okay.
She says, so I decided to come to Franciscan instead of Justin Fatica.
You know what? I thought about that.
Right, I remember that.
No, it's so weird because later I actually thought maybe I should have told you differently, which is crazy. Just because
we told her to
we told her to go.
She decided to come.
She decided to come Franciscan.
Yeah,
She's asking us, will I bump into you guys? Smiley face, smiley face.
Yes, because Joe still will be here.
Joe is the only current student at Franciscan because the rest of us are like graduated.
Yes.
But I'm sure you can find Joe.
Absolutely. And then we are around to hang out with Joe. So yeah, don't worry about it. Absolutely. And if you message us and keep, it won't be called bugging us, but if you keep sending us messages, you know, we will be reminded that you are there and we will seek you out because that's what we want to do. But we have to get through all the other messages, which is why you might have to message often to get in front of some other incoming messages. So we are reminded.
Sorry. Reese says I'm a he, by the way. Got it. Okay.
David, how could you have known?
Let's see.
Okay. Nice.
Marion Zero Channel says, sin makes me literally sick. I have to go to the doctor.
Isn't that crazy though? Ain't that crazy though? I'm not saying like you were literally fall apart, but even Lady Gaga said in her documentary video, which I watched because I was like, I used to have a group called Pray for Lady Gaga, and I wonder how she's doing these days. And because she's spoken about Catholicism a couple times, I did want to see behind the scenes of her life to see if it's in her life at all. And she literally said, as she's suffering with her physical ailments, which are apparently very severe to the point she's like can't move on the couch and needs like crazy treatments. She said that she believes these physical sufferings are a result of the way she previously was living her life and the things that she had done. Like she strongly holds to this belief about herself is what I got from the documentary. So that's cool. But I once again won't just say like, if you sin, bad things are going to start happening and their life is going to fall apart and you're going to wake up and your arm is going to be missing. Like, come on. Like, it's not an every single time you sin thing necessarily, but at the end of the day, it's anti to our biological workings. It is because this is the creator God we're talking about. He made us. He knows how we work and he knows what we shouldn't do because it will hurt our bodies, which he knows better than any doctor in the whole world. So it just makes sense. He's the ultimate doctor of our bodies and he says, don't do these things because it will cause death in many senses of the word.
All right. We're at 56 minutes for the stream. So
okay.
I guess we're entering the end here. Tristan, are you seeing any other questions?
No, my feed. Yeah, my chat's not updating.
Oh, and for the truth or prayer today, let's do Lady Gaga.
Oh, right. We got a super chat.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
so this is for $5 from Geek Rick and Z. He says, any advice for youth leaders that are teaching but not living the Catholic faith in their lives? They teach you on the parish, but they don't live it.
Mm-hmm. Oh. But how, like, concretely are they set in their ways of not living it? Like, do they really think they're right? Or are they just, like, really falling behind of what they know they should do, you know? Okay. Yeah, that's really sad. From being on YouTube for a long time, I've gotten a lot of youth leaders that, like, message me and, like, they're like, hey, we should Skype sometime. You know, I'm this youth group leader at this camp. Even as far back as when I was still like a teenager, and I was like, this is really disturbing. And this is the reason why I say that my faith in God is not based on the human beings of the Catholic Church, as I am one too, and I know I mess up. But I've just seen crazy things being a girl on YouTube and in the Catholic world. Yeah, I've seen and gotten creepy messages for years, and it's really disheartening. And yeah, from bad youth group leaders, one I even thought of somehow contacting the camp so he'd be taken out of there if he was going to be working with people. Crazy stuff. So advice to them who are not actually living out their faith. I wish you could just say, like, go find somebody new, you know? It's hard. I would tell them to make the kids watch movies or YouTube videos that might be a little bit more beneficial from people that they might actually, you know, get something out of and get genuine, you know, trying faith from people who are trying to live out the godly faith on screen. That would be cool if those existed, man.
Yeah, I wonder where we could find that.
I wonder where we could find genuine, like, faith-filled videos somewhere on the internet. That'd be cool. So if they're not a good example, get somebody who is obviously the first answer. Second is to pray like crazy for those youth leaders, because like I always say, if you're criticizing someone, you better be praying for them, or else you're just a chatty Cathy that is doing nothing. So, and even that can even go to gossip if you're not praying for the person you're criticizing. So yeah. And as for what, yeah, of course, let's say you're already praying for them, and let's say they're already showing good content. If there is a parish priest you could talk to that could potentially talk to the youth leader, that might be good. Or even suggest that the youth group have visitors to give them talks and stuff. Like ask a local group of nuns or sisters or somebody to come in, unless the sisters are really strange. That happens sometimes, but like call like a Dominican group of sisters and see if one of them can come down, especially if the youth group has really been desolate for a while. Bring some really interesting people in there. So that would be my advice, I guess. Yeah.
Alrighty, well, we're winding down to the last minute. So you said we haven't done truth or prayer yet today, right?
No, we haven't done truth or prayer yet. So if you do want to ask me a truth, you may. But I do want to just choose Lady Gaga, since she came up in this live, as the one we should pray for this next week, because it's crazy how her faith has come forward more so than it used to be. Not stellar, but it's come forward. And would like to see where that goes from here if we keep praying for her. So,
any truth questions last minute before we end the stream?
Someone says I'll be going to Steubenville youth conferences in a few weeks. I can't wait.
Nice.
Hopefully it all goes well. Yeah,
Hey.
absolutely.
Wonderful.
And if you want to meet up, send us an email.
Yeah, send us an email. newcatholicgeneration@gmail.com.
One last thing, we got another super chat.
Yay,
It's
thank
from
you.
Magna Marcus for $1.99, and it says, "God bless you, New Catholic Generation."
Thank you so much. Yay, God bless you too. God bless you too. My goodness. Oh, so yeah, winding down here, I guess. On the way home from work the other day, I was kind of playing a game, and I said I would bless the car that was driving by me on the left. And I kept kind of doing that on the way home. It was kind of cool because you feel it going out of you, that love going out of you. And you never know how that's gonna change a person's life, even though it's so little, such a little prayer, you know. But you might have made a difference. So it's not like I wrote down, not like surprise baptizing people, but just like blessing people in public when they don't know it. That's what I had written down there. So yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much, I guess, all I had for today. We should pray a rosary on Renee live sometime and just make it like a rosary live. I think that would be cool. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to shout out to Jeremy Hansen. Hello. I always do that as well. And yeah. Thank you for watching, everyone. I guess I can just end it here since there's like, what, a minute left or so.
What the heck? We got another super chat.
Oh,
Okay,
what
cool.
is this? You guys don't want me to leave, do you?
Yeah, I'll at the end.
Well, it might work.
Yeah, keep them rolling in, guys.
We'll stay.
So, mouthwash typhoon.
Mouthwash typhoon. Oh my goodness, it's been years. How are you? I'm kidding. I don't know this one.
They donated $2.99.
Oh, that's That's about the price of mouthwash, isn't it? Anyway.
So for the price of mouthwash, the message to us is, what up?
What up?
Worth it.
Worth it. That was awesome. That was really awesome.
You brought joy to our evening.
You-
Mouthwash time.
Yeah.
You did, and fresh breath. We very much appreciate you. All of it. Okay, I'm done.
Oh, we got another super
No,
chat.
stop it, you guys! I'm out of here. You're gonna make me stand up and reveal I'm wearing sweatpants.
Now this is how we get super chats.
Yeah.
No, that's not how you get super chats going, David. Well, my voice cracked. Okay.
Oh my gosh, we got another one.
What?
Okay, let's get through them. All
I'm trying to hold this close because you guys are really shaking me up. Sorry.
Okay. So Magna Marcus for $1.99 says, please pray for Hawaii.
Right, the
Yes,
volcanoes.
absolutely, I will. My godmother lived in Hawaii a long time, and my cousin was born in Hawaii, so it does have a place in my heart. And the people, I have a place in my heart anyway. So yes.
And Geek Rick and Z donated $2 and says, thanks for all the videos. God bless you all.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been crazy, and we appreciate you guys so much because I know we make videos, but you guys comment and give us so much encouragement and advice and correction, which I appreciate a lot all the time because any more I can learn or any better wording I can learn to address certain topics and stuff is always for it's always going to make things more fruitful for just myself and my faith life and for whoever watches our videos. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Don't tell me there's another one. We're done. We're done. Do not send any more super chats. That's not the point of this video. I don't want your money all the time.
Katie Rain says, come on, I'm a broke middle schooler. Someone send a super chat.
Let's keep the live going.
I'll send a super chat. Where am I? Renee, you're awesome. $100 from me too.
Oh, I got a super chat.
I bet people are like scrambling.
Steve Santos says
1 cent. I'm gonna
for
give
$2.99 says keep up the amazing work.
Thank you so much. You guys are so funny. No, we're going overtime. It's because you guys are being so I don't even know what the word is, but
So
wow.
generous.
So generous.
Yes,
My goodness.
thank you so much. We do appreciate it. Someone says go Cavs. Yes.
Yes, go Cavs. Thank you. I know there's a lot of Warriors fans. Don't get on my case. I'm from Cleveland. I have a little bit of a
Oh wow,
bias.
we got a big super
What?
chat.
Okay.
What?
Mariana Garza donated $20.
Oh, Mariana, thank you.
And
Don't make me
there's
cry.
no comments. It's just a donation.
It's a donation.
Thank you. Wow.
But that is very generous.
Yes.
It is very generous. And, on NCG, we try to all have full-time jobs or part-time jobs to self-sustain ourselves. So we are not on here consistently asking for donations or relying on you guys if we don't have to. So, but that's so sweet and very nice of you anyways. We
Yes,
very
we
much
do
appreciate
try
it.
to use the budget that you guys generously give us to
Yeah.
the fullest extent.
Mm-hmm.
A ton of it goes right back into equipment and resources and compensating the production of
Yeah, I think the
videos.
weirdest thing it goes to is movie tickets for movie reviews at this point, or if we are dying on the road and haven't eaten anything in hours, and we're out there because of an NCG video specifically. That's probably the furthest we get from spending it directly on equipment. So we appreciate this very much.
All right.
Oh,
Okay.
now I'm gonna say the outro really slow. Thank you for watching.
Draw it out.
Draw it out. No. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. I can't believe it's another 2 weeks till I talk to you guys again because this is always so fun. And I appreciate you guys so much. But as you know, we are on Instagram Live a lot doing random things like playing Tetris and playing basketball. I know it might not be the most theological inspiring Instagram lives that exist out there, but we just want you to be part of our friend group and our fun times and just our casual moments because we're not talking theology all the time, but we are trying to still live out godly lives while doing fun things at the same time. We want you to feel like a part of our group because we are all the new Catholic generation and so lucky to have each other. And I believe there are more saints in heaven now than there ever have been looking down on us and supporting us. It is a great time to be alive in terms of Catholicism and in terms of these great struggles in the church that you and me were specifically put on this earth for, and not for any other time in history and its other problems, but we were here for these problems. That God entrusted us with these issues. So keep strong, keep praying, keep fighting, and keep trying your hardest, because at the end of the day, it's going to pay off someday. And just love like you never have before, because love covers a multitude of sins. Good night, everybody, and God bless. Thanks for watching. See you for episode 5 of Renee Live in 2 weeks on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Goodbye.